Hey kids, it's Lisa here, and it is hashtag 78 days, and I have a somewhat restless dog at my feet. But that's okay because the restlessness of my dog Sylvie and the sense of joy and play and sparkiness that Sylvie the dog represents, that in fact dogs in general represent for me, that is not so irrelevant for today's card. Oops, Sylvie's on the move. Bye, Sylvie. Um, no, she's returning. Oh, she's just too cute. Sylvie, there we go. All right, back to me. Sylvie, lie down. Today's card is the Knight of Wands, and the deck that I am using is the Saki Saki deck. This is actually, I got one of the last, I don't know if I'm not sure if the deck is out of print. It might not be, but I got one of the last boxes, at least when I purchased this, and it's in Hebrew, so, but it is signed. Anyway, I love this deck. This deck just gives me such joy. And, you know, in a lot of ways, what I've been talking about of late, you know, has been, you know, hopefully has felt energetic and enlivening, but has been a little bit heavy. I mean, in many ways, when I'm talking about the wands, I'm talking about the kind of fire in our belly that might emerge in response to a world where there are damsels in distress, for instance, you know, associating the wands as a whole suit with fire, and fire with the qualities of the knight, wherever we find him in the minor arcana. And so that sense of responsiveness to distress, to suffering, to the world's needs, that sense of kind of being on a mission, of having a kind of calling or vocation. All of these are things that I associate with the suit of wands and that I associate with the knight. And when it comes to knights, we are entering with the suit of wands in the Saki Saki deck. She calls the wands rods. But with the suit of wands, we're talking about, in the knight, someone who is the fire of fire. So just to give you some visuals. And, you know, the back, oh, there you go. The back of this deck. I mean, the colors. This is just a deck that is about sheer vivacity of play and creativity. And in fact, the sort of extra card in this deck is called the Artist, and it just shows a blank black stage for us to project ourselves onto. There are all these headless figures in this deck. Again, I think the headless figures are opportunities for us to project our own ideas onto the cards. And one of the things that Saki talks about is the ways in which the tarot enables us to be artists, every one of us, to unleash our inner artist, but how that unleashing of the inner artist, that inner spark, that creative vivacity and verve, how that is all about learning again to play with symbols, to make symbols ours. So those headless figures in the Saki Saki deck, let me see if I can get the artist card. That artist card, that extra card that has just a blank stage. These are invitations for us to play by making symbols ours, by projecting our own inner world and imagination and creativity onto the world around us. So, you know, she talks about in the companion book, Playing with Symbols, she talks about, I'm just reading the back cover here, symbols are everywhere, but they're ambivalent. How can you be sure you're interpreting them correctly? The answer is in you, your personal symbolism, embodying your unique responses and reactions to signs. And then she, you know, talks about the ways in which what it means to be an artist is to learn to play. So I think no card in her deck, more than any other, I'm not saying that right, there's no card that is as more evocative of what she's talking about than the Knight of Wands, who actually is the frontispiece card to the whole discussion of the minor arcana. And that's because the Knight of Wands, fire of fire, right? He's the guy who is, in her interpretation, I think he's the guy who is more alive with the spirit of a kind of play, of making the world of meaning ours. If you think about this quality that we all have as children, where, you know, we just take whatever is available and we start telling stories, we start inventing little rituals, we start, I mean, my own witchiness was most alive when I was, you know, 7 and 8 and 9. That's when I actually called myself a witch, way before I became a Buddhist, like way before, because I wanted a world where I took the elements of that world and imbued them with my own meaning, and the whole amalgam was rich with life, and rich with energy, and rich with movement. It's that movement that the Knight of Wands represents. And the thing about that kind of play is that while it can be solitary, you know, again, this is something we know as children, it also, and I think most readily, opens itself up to others. So, you know, you see the way in which kids come together, bring their stories, bring their rituals together, bring their imaginations together. They work in a universe where there's no law of contradiction. It's like, you know, I might be playing with a pile of pebbles, and those pebbles are a family of elves living, you know, in Middle Earth, and my friend might come along and turn that pile of pebbles into mermaids under the ocean, and somehow our two stories, our two ways of embedding and imbuing the world with meaning and with energetic movement, somehow those can come together when we're kids. As adults, it becomes a little bit harder. It becomes more Five of Wandsy. But her knight knows how to play with symbols. So here's what she says about the Knight of Rods. The knight may well be the perfect one to wake everyone up and get them going. His horse is decorated, apparently, with 2 racing stripes, and apparently is wearing sunglasses to tone down the bright light of the flaming ground. The Knight of Rods indeed acts as if a fire has been set underneath him. He rushes from one place or idea to the next, and the next, and the next, till his curiosity is satisfied, if that is ever possible. And she talks about the way in which the colorful rings of the sun hint at the many possibilities that entering new circles can bring. But I like this evocation of the knight's restlessness, and also that he's living in a world that's just alive with possibility. I like the way in which she, in her interpretation, brings the knight into relationship with his horse. So we've got fire, we've got the element of the suit, we've got the wand, and then we have his horse. You know, there's a way in which with the knights we often forget about the horse, but alone of all the court cards, the knight is with another living being. You know, the page typically not, the queen has her throne, the king has his throne, but the knight has a horse. So how does that living being, that relation that we have in this card, how does that speak to the energy of play? Again, I mean, I think for me what the Knight of Wands in this deck and in general ends up bringing forward is the way in which the creative sparkiness of the suit of wands is a response to a world of meaning that we decide to play with, to make ours. That kind of call to start investing our worlds with our own meaning, and how rich that pursuit is when it takes place with others, when the play isn't just my personal play, but when I'm involving other living beings as well. You know, even if it's just a knight on his horse wearing sunglasses. One of the things about this deck is that the deck was composed of images that Saki had already created, and then she cut up and she reassembled. So the deck, although it looks seamless because they're all her images, is already an assemblage. already a putting together of pre-existing parts. And that's the spirit of playing with symbols, and that's the kind of wandsiness of this energy. Like let's take what's out there and let's enrich it with our own play. So I guess I just wanted to bring forward that element of play and that sense that the tarot, which invites us to bring our vigor into the world and to remember how that vigor ties us to others, the tarot also invites us to recall what we knew as children, which is we can make the world more meaningful, and doing so can have this spirit of aliveness, this spirit of colorfulness, the spirit of fun that ultimately it can have, the spirit of play. So let's think about the wands as the suit of play. Yeah. Not like the celebration of the Three of Cups, but the suit of play, of meaning making, of meaning creation, of symbol weaving, of dream weaving. The wands are about play. Okay, that's all I got today. Yeah. Now, of course, my dogs are both asleep, so they're no longer wanting to play. I hope you all are well. As always, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much for your practice in the world. May it be full of joy. May it be playful. Take care.